Teachers of Reddit, what is the funniest reason you've had to send someone to the principal's office? NSW? Not entirely principal's office, because they were kindergartners, but two boys turned off the lights in the bathroom, had their pants around their ankles, chasing each other around in the dark and peeing on each other. That was a weird one to explain to the parents. As an elementary school kid, I wandered on in to pee and watched a stream of pee flow out from under the stall. The kid was standing on the john spinning around pee. Janitors got it tough, man. Kid dropped a folder full of Xeroxed copies of his hairy butt. Turns out he had been taping them to people's lockers all over school. I guess someone told him he had a nice butt and felt obligated to share it with the rest of the world. My dad worked as a teacher in a school for misguided youth. On the first day, he wrote his name on the board as new teachers do, and when he turned back toward the class, a kid had lit his desk on fire with hairspray and was just laughing. 3-foot-high flame no more than a foot away from him. I had a 6th grader. Let me set the scene. This kid is the human incarnation of Ralph Wiggum, who wanted to get out of class so desperately that first he raised his hand and said his ears were ringing and he needed to go to the nurse. Sorry kid, not falling for it. 20 seconds later he raised his hand and said his tongue was burning and needed to go to the nurse. Not falling for it, Ralph. 10 seconds later he had blurry vision. He was squishing his eyes with his hands. No dice, kid. And then, in the grand finale, he stands with a flourish and yells so loud that teachers all down the hall stuck their heads out into the hallway. My penis is bleeding. We all stood mouths agape until the one smartest in the class adds, comma, and you want the nurse to look at it? For every Ralph there is a Bart. I didn't send him to the office, but one of my fav moments was one time I was working with a small group while other students worked on independent stuff around the room. One student was working pretty close to me and obviously made a mistake because he exclaims crap, so I said, excuse me, Ty, what was that? And he says, oh, I didn't say what you think I said, Ms. Someday 42. And I said, oh good, what did you say? And he says, I said she, obviously thinking hard. T, and then just stared at me horrified. I was trying so hard not to laugh, but I just told him, that's what I thought you said. Please don't use that language in my classroom. Classic. Kid in boarding tried to cook a whole raw chicken with like 5 minutes in the microwave. A whole chicken. We were doing sketch comedy in 6th grade a few years back, and seeing as it was a nice day we went outside to practice. From across the field I see one of my students very clearly and aggressively trying to put his junk on a prone classmate. When I asked him, he said it was for his sketch and he was playing a character named the Iron Teabag. The best was the follow-up text from my boss saying I had to Google what teabagging was before I met with the kid. Gotta give the kid an A+ for coming up with a name like the Iron Teabag. Not a teacher, but this happened to me. At 10 years old in primary school, I was in an art class and my teacher was super informal and friendly to all the children there, so we were allowed to chat, have banter and so on. I remember overhearing my sister, 16 at the time, calling someone a T on the phone, and I asked what it meant. A pregnant fish, she said with a straight face. So being the naive, wide-eyed innocent boy I was, I believed her. Cut back to art class where I'm having friendly banter with the teacher. I say, come on sir, stop being a T.P. He starts laughing with tears coming out of his eyes. I'm thinking that I am the little king of banter, the Archbishop of Banterbury if you will. When he says, I'm sorry Mexi 4672, I'm gonna have to send you to the headmaster's office. You can't say that word. I'm looking at him incredulously thinking there has to be some mistake. Then he asked me, what do you think T means? I stare him down and smugly say, it means a pregnant fish. He begins to break down physically and escorts me to the headmaster office. I hear them talking and the headmaster starts laughing in his office. He calls me in and tells me that T in fact doesn't mean what I think it means. I should never say it again and that I would only get off with a detention. To this day I'm still salty. Salty as a T. Not a teacher, but a classmate in my drafting class was sent to the dean for 3D rendering a massive dong. My teacher saw it, commended him for his work, and asked him to print it out. He then stapled it to a referral and sent him to the dean. Glorious. For clarification, a referral is bad in this case, and we printed things in 2D back then and liked it. The beauty of going to an art school is that in my classes, We are praised for doing crap like that. Not a teacher, but we had an older lady as a science substitute in 8th grade. It was a hot June day and the windows were open. We were on the 2nd floor. My friend told the sub when she walked in the classroom that Jimmy had fallen out the window. When the sub looked out the window, she saw Jimmy laying on the ground, contorted, and she passed out. We never got a chance to explain to her that it was joke. He had just laid down on the sidewalk under the window. The 2 boys got suspended and that sub never came back. I'm a male 5th grade teacher. One of my boys yelled out right before the 3:15 bell rang, "Everybody be quiet. I have an erection." I was like, did he just say that? The way he said it made me giggle like a schoolgirl. Luckily no one noticed me turn and bust out laughing. No one else seemed to really notice what he had said. The bell rang to go home and I call him over. I asked him if he knew what an erection was. Very innocently, he said number. Then I thought, oh great, so I said, do you know what a boner is? Of course, he says. Number. I could tell by his face that he wasn't lying. So I said, well, it's when your private parts get hard. Right when I said that, he got this very scared look on his face and said, I promise, I didn't know that. Like I said, I could tell he wasn't lying. I had a very hard time keeping a straight face. He said his friend had yelled that out once, so he thought he would. I told him he can't say those kind of things and he has to be careful with what he says. He walked away very embarrassed. I laughed and laughed when he left the room. He was probably trying to imitate the NSP song "Everybody Shut Up, I Have an Erection." Girl got so drunk that she locked herself in the bathroom. We found her and obviously had to call her parents to come take her home. We kept telling her, listen, it's your dean and you have to unlock the door. She kept responding in the horrible drunk teenager voice, no, you listen, I'm your dean. It was very difficult for us to not break down in laughter. Stupid kids. Look at me, I'm the dean now. 2 of my 5th grade students were arguing on our way to music class, so I went over to see why they were talking in line. I asked what was going on and the first kid said that the other kid had called him gay. The second kid looked me straight in the eye and said, I didn't call him gay, I called him a B. I sent them on their way to the principal's office and sarcastically thanked them for the extra paperwork. That kid is a freaking savage. I think he's the teacher now. First year of high school, got sent to the principal's office by my near retirement teacher for breaking dress code with my t-shirt that had drug references paraphernalia on it. Funny part is when the principal had to explain to my teacher that Billabong is a legitimate clothing company name and nothing more. In 6th grade during a school mass, my buddies made up a thing called Wiener Wack Wednesday. Self-explanatory. Go around nut tapping everyone. Well, our really hot teacher caught 2 kids doing it and we had a whole lecture our next period. She asked if any of us knew anything about it and all the girls told the teachers what was up. Every single guy in our class, 15 at the time, small Catholic school, got called to the office. We had to take turns talking to the principal and explaining that none of us were gay. Then she made us call our parents. I was really freaked out that my father would think that I was gay. He beat my butt at night. Not a teacher, but saw a kid stand up in Russian class to do a speech on a topic of World War II Russia. He decided to do a whole speech on why Hitler was the greatest. Now, our teacher was born in Russia, grew up during the Soviet Union and came to Minnesota to teach. She was horrified. If you think that the United States hates Hitler and Nazis the most, you have not studied Russian in World War II. I was glad, because this knucklehead and his douchy friends ruined Russian class for 4 years. I have family through marriage that was from the USSR. I told a Nazi joke once and it did not go well. Kid walked into my room. Mr. Spodson, I got a joke you will love. Is it school appropriate? I think so. Here it is. Why are Catholics glad Jesus was crucified and not stoned? I don't know. Why? Because now they do this. He makes the sign of the cross. Instead of this, he starts punching himself randomly all over. Okay, you have to go tell that one to Mr. the Dean. Dean laughs his butt off too and sends him back to class. To this day it is my favorite joke. I had this obnoxious, smarmy, show-offy 5th grader. One day he was up to his usual smartassery, and a girl silently got up, opened the classroom pencil sharpener, and dumped the shavings all over the kid. I had to send her to the office, but it was a truly satisfying moment for the whole class. As one of the 2 people who outright decked the class a shat in 8th grade homeroom, I can appreciate going all out. The teacher denied having seen me punch him too, saying we were just posing for a fight. It was near the end of the year. Teacher was 200% done with the kid I punched. Can I tell you what I did instead of kicking a kid out? I was covering another teacher's class in a computer lab, and we have a program called Net Support that basically allows you to spy on all the kids' computers. It also serves some legit instructional purposes, like allowing you to take control of a kid's computer so you can demonstrate things. Only this teacher never used it, so I don't think the kids knew it existed. I don't normally use it because I don't like the big brother vibe it gives off, but there was a kid being a total obnoxious jerk. He was looking up stupid and distracting videos and laughing loudly about them and making obnoxious comments to show off in front of his friends. I could have blocked YouTube, but instead I took control of his computer. I started typing in kitten videos into YouTube. My Little Ponies, anything I could think of that wouldn't be cool to him or his friends. Then every time he started to freak out and insist he wasn't doing it to his friends, I gave him control back, and then took it away again. Then finally I made a little pop-up come up on his screen that said, "I'm watching you." I expected him to figure out what was going on, but I think he got freaked out instead. It never seemed to occur to him that it was me, so I gave him control back and he did his work quietly for the rest of the class. I went to a small Catholic high school in the Seattle area. We had monthly mass in our gym, and every year around Easter we did the Stations of the Cross. Mass was always brutal, but the stations lasted 2.5 hours or so. Unreal. A little background. I couldn't burp until I was in my early 20s. I have no clue why, but any built-up gas had only one exit. Growing up, I farted to the point that people thought I had a medical condition. People even called me fart boy. Anyway, it was my senior year and we were headed to the dreaded Stations of the Cross Mass. My friends and I had torn butts in class a number of times, but never during mass. We always talked about doing it, but never mustered the juice. I had decided about a week before that this would be the day. The mass was set up where the choir would sing before each station. I think there were 11 or something, and then the priest would ramble on about its significance. Each time the choir stopped, there would be about 10 seconds of complete silence. We're on the 5th station, and the choir is finishing "Were you there when Jesus something something?" Brah up, I unleashed a behemoth right as everything went silent. I was sitting on gym bleachers, which amplified the blast perfectly. I remember the guy in front of me was inexplicably holding a yellow plastic screwdriver. He dropped it, in shock or from the blast wave. We'll never know. My buddy and I proceeded to muffle our laughter for at least an hour until mass ended. I've never tried to not laugh for that long before or since. Each time one of us would start to settle down, the other would release a cackle that started the whole process over again. We didn't even get in trouble. I'm not sure if the teachers thought it was an accident or never wanted to speak of it again. I am laughing right now. One of my favorite memories. Unwanted church laughs are a strange mix of awesome and terrifying at the same time. A forbidden laugh is the best laugh of all. In high school I got called to the principal's office. They put a screenshot of the Urban Dictionary entry for Cleveland steamer in front of me and asked why I was looking at that. I laughed my butt off and said I was just doing some research, and got sent back to class. So, this doesn't quite fit the question, but I can't tell this story without laughing, so here it is. I used to work in a super strict school for kids who got kicked out of their regular schools. We had an assembly twice a day, morning and afternoon. That was extremely serious. Kids had to sit up straight with their hands in their laps, girls on one side and boys on the other. Totally silent. That kind of thing. Occasionally when we were having behavior problems with entire groups, we'd make them sit in assembly for the remainder of that period or however long until they could get it together. There was a class, middle schoolers, naturally, who could not stop farting. They'd intentionally fart as loud as they could just to be gross and disruptive, and it even evolved into them getting up out of their seats and farting on each other. This is hilarious to me now, but it got really old and really smelly. Anyway, one day, it was happening so much throughout each class that we took them to assembly. I'm standing in the front with the other teachers. and our principal was talking to them, except he was P, so he's pacing back and forth, reaming these kids out, punching his fist into his hand, spit flying out of his mouth. His face is bright red. He's saying all this stuff about respect, and then he adds an O, and if you have to fart, and he yelled the word fart with such venom and disdain that I just lost it right there in front of everyone. I could not stop laughing. I tried to play it off like a coughing fit or something, but I couldn't. I had to leave the room. Not a teacher, but the last time I was sent to the principal's office was over a live chicken in high school. The high school I went to used the 8-block schedule system. My last period teacher was afraid to the point of hilarity of birds. We had chickens at home, and since there were 4-H chickens they were quite docile. I put one in a duffel bag one morning and then put it in the top shelf of my locker. They will just sleep if it's dark, so once last period came I just put it in the bag. She was used to all of us bringing bags, and since it was last period and when she got up to put the attendance slip on the door, I just took it out of the bag and put it in the middle of the room. Hilarity ensued and I spent the next day playing Pokemon in suspension in the cafeteria. The year was 1987. Second grade me decided to bring the Penthouse mags I found under my dad's bed to school. I found them the night before and thought up this whole plan. It was cold, so I slid them in between the pocket of my jacket before leaving in the morning. Shortly thereafter on the playground, I was showing my buddies these beautiful women with the most raging 70s muff you could imagine. Finally get to class and find out that my teacher was ill and was replaced by a sub. Thinking I had it made, I slid the mags under all my papers in my box and went about the day. Just before lunch the sub started going through boxes, searching for a folder for the neighboring teacher. That's when she screamed. The sub was waving the Penthouse at me while dragging me to the principal's office. To make things that much better, my sweet 80-year-old grandma was the one to pick me up. I made the mistake of leaving a 9th grader in my classroom when he missed the bus home. I had to go to meeting and it was pouring rain, so I'll let him stay. I told him not to use the computers. The meeting was in the computer lab. We were learning how to see all of the students' computers on our own screens. The tech guy had us all pull up our first period classes on our monitors to test it out. No students should have been logged onto a computer at the time. All the screens should have been blank. I saw that a very conservative Jehovah's Witness teacher in the row ahead of me had one screen lit up on her multi-screen view. I watched as she clicked on the screen to see it larger. She gasped. She made a small whining sound. It was anime-style tentacle P. It was the screen of the student I had left alone in my classroom. The teacher quickly turned around, calling my name very loudly, and asked if "insert student name here" was in my classroom. I told her he was. I got up and went to the phone at the back of the room. I called my classroom number. The student answered. I said, "You're doing something you shouldn't be doing right now, aren't you?" He said, "Yes." I said, "I suggest you turn it off right now." I heard footsteps running across the floor and a slam. He returned to the phone. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. We'll talk about this later," I said. I hung up. What an unlucky kid. He chose to watch Tentacle P on the wrong day at the wrong time. Anime style Tentacle P, as opposed to real life Tentacle P, which is absolutely a real thing, and no, I do not want to find out about it. Put that link away, goddammit Redditor. I was doing an About Miss Maddie Don't Leave slideshow at the beginning of the school year, and it had a slide with me at a Cardinals game. I explained how I'm a huge Cardinals fan and go to games every chance I get. Kid raises his hand and asks, "Do you like getting really drunk at Cardinals games?" I mean, obviously I do. But god dang it, kid, you're in 8th grade. Don't ask me that. I had a student, as we were playing Team Jeopardy, discreetly write a sign to flash to other teams that were up that said, "You ninny poos are going down because you friggin' suck at science. Love, Team 7 inches." It took me a while to catch him. It was one of those frick that's hysterical, but you can't say that to people in school situations. Same kid asked if I like to smoke weed. Not as funny, but still funny that he thought it was appropriate to ask. The joys of being a 23-year-old teacher are endless. They think of you as a peer sometimes, and ask the most inappropriate questions. Mrs. B, I have a question. I think it might be a dumb question. Sweetie, there's no such thing as a dumb question. My brothers told me this though, so there might be, fair. What is it? Okay, so you know Michael Jackson, right? He was like kinda old, so I think you'd know about him. Yeah, he was even a thing when my mom was a kid. But yeah, so you've seen Thriller, right? When they play it around Halloween? Yeah, I love that video. Okay, well my brothers told me that Michael Jackson was really a werewolf and a zombie, and I just wanted to ask, was he really a werewolf? Or a zombie? No dear, I knew it. I knew Michael Jackson wasn't a zombie, he's still dead, and they're full of crap. Several students head and gasped, otherwise I never even think I would have sent him to the office. I was about to die laughing. And he wasn't wrong either. I knew his brothers, and they were both consistently full of crap. Sweetie, there's no such thing as a dumb question. My brothers told me this though, so there might be. There was a student with autism who lived in a very literal world. We'll call him T. You had to be precise with your words as T could not comprehend slang or figurative language. He had an issue with another student at recess the day prior. It was something minor about a basketball. Basically, T had a basketball and placed it under the goal and walked away. Another student grabbed it. T became angry and ultimately gave the ball to the other student rather begrudgingly. Apparently, T told his uncle and the uncle's response was, "I'd have made that kid eat a crap sandwich." Well, T made a quick stop by the litter box before coming to school. He also wrote a note to the other kid saying, "I get the ball today, you can have this crap sandwich." It wasn't a gesture he viewed as inappropriate. He actually thought the crap sandwich was a viable option for the other student. I had to send him to the office, but my god did I laugh. Even his mom laughed before apologizing. The principal still has the note in the office 2 years later. Oh, man. I have so many stories. I'll share a few from the last school year that come to mind. 1. An 8th grader farted to make his friends laugh, and it was so bad, we had to clear out the middle of the room. There was uncontrollable gagging. I had to write a pass for him to go check his pants and then go to the principal's office. 2. A kindergartner was walking in front of a projector screen so her shadow was on the board. She had cute little pigtail buns and a ribbon, so it looked like Minnie Mouse. Then she shot 2 middle fingers up. 3. I taught 7th graders how to use Google Classroom, which has a comments section under each assignment. Even if they delete their comments, every one of them is still emailed to me. One kid wasn't paying attention when I explained all of that and wrote, "You'll know this class is poo." He and about 10 other kids had an entire conversation that they tried to delete and adamantly denied it. So I turned on the projector and went through my emails in front of everyone. 5. I'm 30ish and wear glasses. A middle schooler argued with me over doing his work and was asked to leave, and his parting shot was, "Whatever, old but look like Harry Potter anyways." Crap, I'm too late for this one. Not a teacher, but my mother is. Kid in her class asked if she had any kids. At the time I was my mother's only child. She mentioned me, and the kid goes, "What school does he go to?" And of course my mom answers without hesitation. Kid goes, "Good. I'm ma, blow it up. Expelled." The previous day, kid's father, "Son, I've just got this new photo enlarger and a big box of old aerial photos of all the local schools. So if you know anyone who goes to one of them, we can blow it up to give them a large print as a present." One of the brightest, honest female students I've ever had to the most annoying kid I've ever had. "Would you shut the frick up?" Took everything in me not to laugh or say I know, right? Girl in class with last name of Sanchez. On her birthday, her friend is wearing a t-shirt that says "Happy Birthday Dirty Sanchez." I told her she'd have to go to the office to get a t-shirt to wear over it. That's when it got stupid, because she accused me of being a crappy teacher and to frick off as she was leaving. Then when she got to the office, the principal laughed because he knew what a dirty Sanchez is. I didn't even send the kid. I was too amused. I asked one of my students to come smash a giant butt spider on my desk. Being 9 years old, he walked up with an impressive swagger, trying to show all his friends how brave he was. He took one look at it and whispered, "Oh frick." I was the only person who heard him, so I just stifled my laughter and told him I wouldn't write him up if he killed it. He did, and was the talk of the lounge at lunch. "You're a good teacher. You presented a win-win option for both you and the kid. That's about all anyone can ask for. I got sent to the principal's office with my buddy Mike for singing American Pie. Principal told us if we could sing it all, we could go back to class. If not, detention. We sang it, the whole dang thing. Not a teacher, but as a 5th grader, 2 friends and I were playing with the jump rope during recess when the playground attendant walked up and asked if she could show us something. Now this was a fairly large woman and I had my doubts in her jump roping abilities, but we were 10, so who were we to say no to an adult? She takes her place in between the 2 girls and with the first revolution of the jump rope falls flat on her face. My friends and I, along with the 10 or so other kids in the vicinity, start to laugh uncontrollably while she struggles to peel herself off the ground. Humiliated at having embarrassed herself in front of a bunch of little kids, she yells for everyone that laughed to go to the principal's office. So a dozen or so kids go marching off to the office. When we tell the principal why we're there, he immediately starts laughing. The kind of red-faced silent laughter that takes about 2 minutes for him to get under control. Finally, he says you all can go back out there and tell her I'd have done the same thing. I never saw her again after that recess. That's such a frickin' sad story. I used to work in a tough high school in South Central LA. One of the most challenging boys in school was in my integrated math class, and one day he's been using profanity, so I've gone through the whole discipline stages and have a referral written for him on my desk, but I'm giving him chances because it's South Central. Well, eventually he cusses again. I go, "Ron Sean, again? We cannot be using that language in class." Under his breath he goes, "Frick that crap mother sucker." I whip around. "What did you just say?" The whole class turns and looks at him and it catches him off guard, and then in Dave Chappelle's Rick James voice he screams. I said, "Frick that crap mother sucker." Whole class is laughing. I'm in tears. He gets up, grabs the referral and walks to the office. When I was teaching grade 6, I had a student walk into the classroom from the hallway hailing Hitler. Insta office. Similar thing year 7. First day, German language class, and that was how a classmate greeted the teacher. Ask the kids for examples of interjections. One kid goes, "Frick, it was actually kind of funny, and in the right context, yes, it can be an interjection, but I still had to send him to the office." Teaching a grade 8 English class, last block of the first sunny day this last March. To say the kids were getting a bit rowdy is putting it lightly. I kind of left them to do what they wanted, working on a project they had due in about a week. About halfway through class, I started hearing some louder than normal laughter coughing coming from a back group. I let it go twice, but the third time I had to go investigate. As I wander over, the kids part and giggle, pretending to work. One of the boys, class clown, let's call him Gavin, is working while having a hand over his nose and mouth. I also notice a bag of sour Skittles, along with the sour powder scattered around. Here I think, I can either stop this right now, or I can let it get hilarious. Obviously, I walk away. Not 5 minutes later, the coughing happens again, only this time Gavin makes his way to my desk, covering his nose, still now a hand under his mouth, collecting drool. I need to go to the bathroom. I smile at him knowingly. Why would that be? I need a drink. Why? I choked on Skittles. Drool is now pooling in his fingers. You choked on Skittles? Is that really it? Okay. I was snorting Skittle powder, now can I please? The drool is dripping through his fingers now. After you clean yourself up, please send yourself to the office. I need to know what Mr. Principal thinks of your choice of activity. He looked at me for a moment. That's fair, and wanders out. As soon as he left the class I start crying, I'm laughing so hard. Potential future Toronto mayor. I teach at a university, so I didn't send him to the principal, just out of class. I once told a student to leave class because he never brought his textbook and constantly played on his phone. So after 2 classes of this I told him to get out because he was distracting other students. This kid freaked out, yelling and cursing at me. Keep in mind I am a 5'2" female and this kid is about 6 feet. The rest of the class is like, WTF, and I stared him down and said, "Get the frick out of my classroom." Kid picked up his books and left. From that point on, anytime someone screwed up in class, the rest of the class would shout, "Get out of my classroom" at them. They all thought it was hysterical that I carried this giant. First time I was sent to the principal's office was in 2nd grade, so probably 7 years old, for bringing some playboys to school and showing them to other kids at recess. I am sure it was amusing and horrifying for whatever teacher sent me. We had a live-in nanny whose stash I discovered and stole. I didn't have any idea what they were all about, but I remember thinking how these naked ladies seem great and felt compelled to share my discovery. Although I didn't get in trouble for it. Here's another amusing story from that age. In kindergarten, if you behaved well each day, then you'd get a ticket. And every few weeks you could enter those raffle tickets to win small toys. My parents discovered I was selling my tickets to other kids and asked me why I was doing it. Apparently I replied, if I enter the raffle I might not win, but if I sell my tickets I can buy the toy I want. By all accounts I was an amusing kid. Smart kid. Band teacher here. I had a 7th grade trumpet student who was doing a playing test in class. She was an absolute sweetheart. Short, nice girl whose trumpet was about half her size. She starts to play and makes a mistake. Crap, she exclaims. Plays a bit more. Crap. This continued throughout the excerpt. I must say it was the most heartfelt crap I had ever heard. Following the test I said, "Dear, did you realize you cussed after every mistake?" Her response, "Oh, crap." Well, the whole class was looking at me like, what are you going to do? I asked her to sit in my office and I will deal with it after class. Class ends and I go to my office and smile. I told her she shouldn't use those words, but I'm very impressed with how much she progressed and cared. I didn't send her to the principal, but I was proud of her because she actually gave a crap. She gave multiple, if your story is true. Not a teacher, but in 8th grade science class I witnessed greatness. While in the lab, my partner asked the teacher what would happen if he pulled a safety shower lever, and the teacher said that nothing would happen. 5 minutes later my partner pulled the lever, and, of course, a waterfall erupts from the shower head and spreads all over the lab. The teacher looks shell-shocked as everyone is laughing hysterically. She then screams, "Josh, go to the office now." Not the principal's office, but we had a friend, let's call him Steve, get written up for in-school suspension. Steve, why'd you get written up? Says nothing, hands me the slip. Reason for 2ND write-up, 8 first detention slip. He vomited a lot later. 1. They poisoned my fish with copper sulfate. 2. Separate event. They put weed on my chem. Scales. I'm sorry about your fish. From the student side, we were discussing different shots in cinematography like close-up and long shots. Basically the teacher asked us to call them out and I screamed out, "Come shit." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video.